Hello, and welcome to our channel, Stories with Silas. We hope you enjoy watching.
The head chef's refusal was brutal. The woman's life-threatening allergies were not his problem. Maya walked into the kitchen alone, knowing this single act of defiance would cost her everything she'd worked for. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment where in the world you're watching from. Let's go. The clatter of silverware stopped mid-motion. The soft murmur of conversation died away. Even the gentle notes from the live violinist seemed to fade into silence. All eyes in Elysian Heights, one of Miami's most prestigious restaurants, turned toward the kitchen doors where raised voices cut through the refined atmosphere like a knife through silk. Maya Torres had never imagined her Tuesday evening shift would become the defining moment of her life. At 28, she was used to being invisible, just another waitress in black and white uniform, gliding between tables of the wealthy and powerful who dined at this temple of haute cuisine perched on the 42nd floor of the Paramount Tower in downtown Miami. But what she was about to witness, and more importantly, what she was about to do, would change everything. Maya had grown up in Little Havana, raised by her grandmother Rosa after her parents died in a car accident when she was 7. Abuela Rosa had been a cook at a small family restaurant, and Maya had spent her childhood in that kitchen, learning not just recipes, but philosophy. "Mija," her grandmother would say, stirring a pot of ropa vieja with hands worn from decades of work, "cooking is not about showing off. It's about love. It's about feeding souls, not just stomachs. Every person who sits at your table deserves to feel cared for, no matter who they are." Those words had stayed with Maya through everything. Through culinary school that she'd had to drop out of when the money ran out. Through her marriage to Carlos that fell apart 2 years ago. Through raising her 5-year-old son, Diego, alone while working 2 jobs. The second job was at Elysian Heights, where the tips could sometimes equal a week's pay at her morning job at the diner on 8th Street. Elysian Heights wasn't just expensive, it was legendary. Chef Marcus Thornton, the temperamental genius who presided over its kitchen, had 3 Michelin stars and a reputation for perfection that bordered on obsession. The restaurant occupied the entire top floor of the Paramount Tower, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering breathtaking views of Biscayne Bay and the Atlantic Ocean beyond. The interior was all marble and gold accents, with tables spaced far enough apart that conversations remained private. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over diners who included celebrities, politicians, and international business tycoons. The staff at Elysian Heights moved like a ballet company, every gesture practiced, every word measured. Maya had been working there for 8 months, long enough to learn the rhythm, but not long enough to feel secure. She knew she was one mistake away from losing this job, and with it, her ability to provide Diego with the stability he deserved. She'd arrived 2 hours before her shift, as always, to help with setup. Her section tonight was tables 12 through 15, positioned near the windows with the best views. She'd polished every wine glass until it gleamed, aligned every piece of silverware with geometric precision, and memorized the evening's specials, including their ingredients, preparation methods, and suggested wine pairings. Her first tables had been uneventful. A couple celebrating their anniversary had left her a generous tip after she'd recommended the perfect champagne. A group of businessmen barely looked at her as she served their courses, too absorbed in their discussion of merger terms and stock options. A solo diner, a woman in her 60s wearing understated but clearly expensive jewelry, had complimented Maya on her attentiveness. But then table 14 was seated, and everything changed. The couple who arrived caused a subtle stir among the staff. The maître d', Robert Chen, had personally escorted them to their table, a courtesy reserved for only the most important guests. The man was in his late 40s, wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. His bearing spoke of wealth and power, the kind that came from generations of privilege. His wife was younger, perhaps in her mid-30s, elegant in a deep blue dress with a silk hijab framing her delicate features. Her eyes held a warmth that contrasted with the obvious nervousness in her expression. Maya would later learn they were Sheikh Rahman al-Rashid and his wife Amira. He was a real estate developer from Dubai with properties across the globe, including several luxury hotels in Miami. They were in town for a major business deal, and this dinner was meant to be a celebration before flying back home the next morning. What Maya didn't know yet was that this ordinary Tuesday evening was about to test everything her grandmother had taught her about compassion, courage, and what it truly meant to serve. Maya approached table 14 with her practiced smile, posture aligned, eyes warm. She'd learned early in her time at Elysian Heights that wealthy diners appreciated genuine warmth over robotic formality. "Good evening," she said, her voice steady and welcoming. "My name is Maya, and I'll be taking care of you this evening. May I start you with something from our cocktail menu, or would you prefer to see our wine selection?" "Monsieur," Sheikh al-Rashid smiled politely, but Maya noticed his attention was focused on his wife, whose hands were folded carefully in her lap. There was a tension in her shoulders that Maya recognized, having seen it countless times in her own mirror during difficult moments. "Water for both of us, please," the sheikh said, his English perfect but accented, still not sparkling. "And perhaps we could have a moment to review the menu before ordering." "Of course," Maya replied, placing 2 leather-bound menus before them. "Take all the time you need. I'll return with your water shortly." As she walked away, she heard the wife speak softly in Arabic, too quietly for Maya to make out the words, but the concern in her tone was unmistakable. Maya returned with 2 crystal glasses of chilled water, each with a thin slice of cucumber, the way Elysian Heights presented everything with subtle elegance. As she set them down, Sheikh al-Rashid cleared his throat. "Miss, before we order, my wife has some dietary restrictions, severe allergies, actually. Would it be possible to speak with your chef about modifications to certain dishes?" Maya's heart immediately understood this wasn't a preference or a fad diet. This was medical, serious. "Absolutely, sir," she said. "What are the specific allergens we need to avoid?" Amira spoke for the first time, her voice gentle but clearly anxious. "I'm severely allergic to tree nuts, especially walnuts and pecans. Also, shellfish. Even trace amounts can cause anaphylaxis. I carry an EpiPen, but we've been so careful all week." Her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear. "Your restaurant came so highly recommended, and my husband wanted to celebrate here before we return home. But if it's too complicated, we understand." Maya felt a surge of protectiveness toward this woman. She knew what it was like to feel vulnerable, to need accommodation in a world that didn't always make room for difference. "Let me speak with Chef Thornton directly," she said warmly. "I'm sure we can create something wonderful and safe for you. The sea-based special tonight is shellfish-free, and I can verify all the ingredients personally. Just give me a few minutes." Sheikh al-Rashid's expression showed relief and gratitude. "Thank you. That's very kind." Maya headed toward the kitchen, her mind already running through possible solutions. She'd watched Chef Thornton work for 8 months, knew which dishes could be modified, which sauces contained hidden nuts. The sea base was prepared with a lemon butter sauce, herb crust, and roasted vegetables. Safe, if prepared carefully. The kitchen at Elysian Heights was a symphony of controlled chaos. Stainless steel surfaces gleamed under bright lights. 5 sous chefs worked at different stations, while Chef Marcus Thornton presided over the pass, examining every plate that left his kitchen with the intensity of a jeweler inspecting diamonds. Thornton was 45, tall and broad-shouldered, with close-cropped dark hair going silver at the temples. He trained in Paris and New York, worked under 2 of the world's most famous chefs, and built Elysian Heights into a culinary destination. He was also known for his volcanic temper and absolute refusal to compromise his vision. Maya approached cautiously. "Chef Thornton, I need to discuss table 14. He didn't look up from the plate he was garnishing with micro-herbs. "What about it?" "They'd like to order the sea bass special, but the wife has severe allergies, tree nuts and shellfish. I wanted to confirm the sea bass preparation is safe and to make sure there's no cross-contamination." Thornton's hands stilled. Slowly, deliberately, he set down his tweezers and turned to face Maya. His expression made her stomach clench. "Let me understand," he said, his voice dangerously quiet. "You want me to modify my signature dish?" "It's not really a modification," Maya said carefully. "The sea base itself doesn't have nuts or shellfish. I just need to ensure the preparation is completely safe for someone with severe allergies. Do you know how this kitchen operates?" Thornton's voice was rising now, and other staff members were glancing over nervously. "Every dish is designed precisely, every component balanced, every flavor intentional. I don't do allergy-friendly cuisine. I do perfection." Maya's pulse quickened, but she kept her voice steady. "Chef, the woman could die if there's contamination. She has an EpiPen with her. This is serious." "Then perhaps," Thornton said coldly, "she should eat at restaurants that cater to people with problems. This is Elysian Heights, not a hospital cafeteria. If she can't eat what I create, she shouldn't be here." The kitchen had gone silent. Every chef, every line cook, every busser was frozen, watching this confrontation. Maya felt heat rising in her cheeks, a mixture of embarrassment and growing anger. "Chef, they're willing to work with whatever you recommend. They just need it to be safe." "I don't compromise," Thornton snapped. "That's what makes this restaurant what it is. Tell them to order something else or tell them to leave. I'm not running a special needs kitchen." Maya stood there, stunned. She'd witnessed Thornton's temper before, his perfectionism, his demands. But this was different. This was cruelty. Maya walked back toward table 14 with leaden feet, each step feeling heavier than the last. Her mind raced, trying to find the right words, the gentle way to deliver news that would ruin this couple's evening. She could see them from across the dining room, the sheikh leaning toward his wife, speaking softly, probably reassuring her that everything would be fine. How could she tell them it wouldn't be? As she approached, both looked up with expectant faces, hope clear in their eyes. Maya felt something crack inside her chest. "I spoke with Chef Thornton," she began, and immediately saw Amira's expression shift from hope to dread. The woman knew. Somehow, she already knew. "He says—" Maya paused, trying to find diplomatic words for something that had none. "He says that the dishes here are prepared to exact specifications and that modifications aren't possible. He suggested perhaps looking at other menu options, but everything here is complex." Sheikh al-Rashid finished quietly, "with multiple components that might contain allergens." Maya nodded, feeling shame burn in her throat, even though she wasn't the one who should feel it. "I'm so sorry. Truly." Amira's eyes glistened with tears she was clearly trying to hold back. "It's all right," she said softly, though her voice betrayed her disappointment. "We understand. This happens sometimes. We should have called ahead." "No," Maya said firmly, surprising herself with the force of the word. "No, you shouldn't have to call ahead. You should be able to come to any restaurant and be treated with respect and care." She glanced back toward the kitchen, where she could see Thornton through the pass, already focused on the next plate. "Please, give me just a few more minutes." Before they could respond, Maya hurried away, her heart pounding. She found Robert Chen near the host stand, checking the reservation list. "Robert, what other options do we have? Is there anything on the menu that's completely safe for severe nut and shellfish allergies?" Robert's normally composed face showed concern. "Not really. You know how Chef Thornton works. He uses walnut oil in at least half the dishes. The kitchen shares equipment. Even the supposedly safe options have cross-contamination risk. He lowered his voice. Between you and me, this is why I hate when he refuses to accommodate people. It's not about the food, it's about his ego. Maya's mind was spinning. She thought of Abuela Rosa, of all those nights in that small kitchen in Little Havana. She thought of the recipes she knew by heart, the techniques she'd learned, the philosophy behind every dish her grandmother had taught her. Cooking wasn't about ego, it was about feeding people, body and soul. An idea began to form, dangerous and probably insane. "The prep kitchen downstairs," she said quietly. "The one they use for catering events. It's separate from the main kitchen, right?" Robert's eyes widened as he realized what she was suggesting. "Maya, no, you can't. If Thornton finds out, does it have its own equipment? Clean pans, utensils, everything separate?" "Yes, but Maya, you'd lose your job. Maybe worse. Thornton would make sure you never work in a decent restaurant again." Maya looked back at table 14. Amira was wiping her eyes discreetly with a napkin while her husband held her hand, both of them gathering their things to leave. And suddenly, Maya was 7 years old again, watching her grandmother stand up to the restaurant owner who wanted to refuse service to a homeless man who'd come in begging for food. Rosa had made that man a full meal, paid for it from her own tips, and told the owner that if he had a problem with it, she'd find somewhere else to work. "Some things," Rosa had told young Maya that night, "are more important than keeping your job. Your dignity, your compassion, your humanity. Don't ever let money make you forget that." Maya turned back to Robert. "I need 30 minutes in that prep kitchen. Can you cover for me?" "This is crazy," Robert whispered, but then he sighed, a small smile tugging at his lips. "But it's also the right thing to do. Okay, I'll tell anyone who asks that you're handling a family emergency. But Maya, you better pull this off." "I will," Maya said with more confidence than she felt. "I need you to go to table 14. Tell them we found a solution. Tell them to please give us 30 more minutes and ask them to trust us." Robert nodded and headed toward the table, while Maya made her way to the staff elevator. Her hands were shaking as she pressed the button for the floor below, where the catering kitchen sat empty and unused on weekday evenings. The doors closed, and Maya caught sight of her reflection in the polished steel. She looked terrified, but underneath the fear, she saw something else. Determination. The same fire she'd seen in Abuela Rosa's eyes all those years ago. She thought about what she was about to do. She could lose her job, yes. Thornton could blacklist her in the industry. She might never get another position at a high-end restaurant. The tips she depended on to pay Diego's childcare, to keep their small apartment, to save for his future, all of that could disappear. But what was the alternative? Watch a kind couple leave disappointed and hurt because one arrogant chef cared more about his pride than people. Let Amira go to bed tonight, feeling like she was a burden, an inconvenience, someone whose needs were too much trouble. No. Maya stepped out of the elevator into the quiet hallway. The catering kitchen was through the double doors at the end. She pushed them open and surveyed the space. Clean, organized, perfect. Everything she needed was here. She pulled out her phone and quickly searched for images of Elysian Heights plating style, studying the presentations. Then she began gathering ingredients from the storage areas. Fresh sea base from the walk-in, organic vegetables, herbs, butter, lemon, garlic. She checked every label meticulously, her grandmother's voice in her head. "Always read every label twice when cooking for allergies, Mija. Someone's life depends on your attention." Maya washed her hands thoroughly, then began to work. Her hands moved with a confidence born from years of practice, from muscle memory developed in her grandmother's kitchen and refined through culinary school before finances forced her to drop out. This was for Amira, for every person who'd ever been made to feel like their needs didn't matter, for Abuela Rosa, who taught her that cooking was love. Maya's hands moved with practiced precision as she prepared the fish. She filleted the sea bass carefully, checking for any bones, her knife moving with the confidence of someone who'd performed this task 1,000 times. The flesh was pristine, fresh, and she treated it with the respect it deserved. As she worked, memories flooded back. She was 12 years old, standing on a stool in Abuela Rosa's kitchen, learning to handle a knife properly. Feel the blade, mija. Don't fight it. Let it do the work. And always, always respect your ingredients. This fish gave its life to nourish someone. Honor that. Maya seasoned the sea bass simply with salt, pepper, and a whisper of fresh thyme. In a clean pan, never used for nuts or shellfish according to the labels she'd checked, she heated butter and olive oil until it shimmered. The fish went in skin side down, and the sound of the sizzle was like music. While the fish cooked, she prepared the vegetables. Baby carrots, asparagus, and cherry tomatoes, each chosen for their color and freshness. She roasted them with a drizzle of olive oil, a sprinkle of sea salt, and fresh herbs. Nothing complicated, nothing that would mask the natural flavors. Just honest, beautiful food. The hardest part was the plating. She'd studied Elysian Heights aesthetic, the way Thornton arranged every element with geometric precision. But Maya knew her grandmother's wisdom applied here too. Presentation mattered, but not as much as heart. She created a swoosh of lemon butter sauce across the plate, placed the perfectly cooked sea bass at an angle, and arranged the roasted vegetables with care. A garnish of fresh dill and a slice of lemon completed the composition. It wasn't Thornton's avant-garde style, but it was elegant, refined, and most importantly, made with absolute attention to safety and care. Maya stepped back and examined her work. The sea bass had a golden crust, the vegetables glistened with olive oil, the colors popped against the white plate. It looked like it belonged at Elysian Heights. But more than that, it looked like it belonged on any table where someone cared enough to cook with love. She quickly prepared a second plate for the sheikh, choosing a different dish from the menu that she knew was safe, a grilled chicken breast with herbes de Provence and roasted fingerling potatoes. Again, she checked every ingredient twice, used only sanitized equipment, and plated with care. 28 minutes had passed since she'd left the dining room. Maya carefully placed both plates on a serving tray, covered them with silver domes the way formal service required, and took the elevator back up. Her heart hammered in her chest. This was it, the moment that would either vindicate her decision or end her career. As the elevator rose, Maya thought about what she was returning to. Thornton would eventually find out. There was no way this could stay secret forever. Someone would talk, or he'd notice the missing ingredients, or Robert would be forced to reveal the truth. And when that happened, the consequences would be severe. But Maya also thought about Diego, about the bedtime story she'd read him last night, about a brave knight who protected people who couldn't protect themselves. He'd looked up at her with his huge brown eyes and said, "Mommy, I want to be brave like that when I grow up." What kind of example would she be if she chose safety over courage? If she let fear stop her from doing what was right? The elevator doors opened. Maya straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin, and walked back into the dining room carrying the tray. The restaurant was still bustling with the quiet energy of fine dining. Conversations murmured like water over stones. Wine glasses clinked softly. The violinist played something classical and soothing, and at table 14, Sheikh Al-Rashid and Amira sat waiting, their coats draped over the backs of their chairs. Robert had convinced them to stay. As Maya approached, both looked up. The hope had returned to their faces, but it was tentative now, guarded. They'd been disappointed too many times before. "Good evening," Maya said, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. Thank you for your patience. I've prepared something special for you both. She set the tray on the stand beside their table and removed the silver domes with a practiced flourish. The dishes gleamed under the soft lighting. Amira's hand went to her mouth. Did Chef Thornton make these? Maya met her eyes directly. Chef Thornton is a brilliant chef, she said carefully. But tonight I had the privilege of cooking for you myself. I used a completely separate kitchen, brand new equipment, and I personally verified every single ingredient. No nuts, no shellfish, no cross-contamination. You have my word, and more than that, you have my promise that I would never serve you anything I wouldn't serve my own family. The Sheikh's eyes widened in surprise. You cooked this, but you're a waitress, Maya finished with a small smile. Yes, but before I was a waitress, I was a culinary student. And before that, I was my grandmother's apprentice. She taught me that the most important ingredient in any dish isn't expensive or exotic. It's care. It's respect for the person you're cooking for. Tears spilled down Amira's cheeks. I don't know what to say. You didn't have to do this. You could have just let us leave. No, Maya said softly. I couldn't. Please, enjoy your meal. If you need anything at all, I'll be right here. She stepped back, giving them space, but her heart was full in a way it hadn't been in years. Whatever happened next, whatever price she had to pay, this moment made it worth it. Sheikh al-Rashid cut into the sea bass, and Maya held her breath. He took a bite, chewed thoughtfully, then looked at his wife. Amira, you must try this. Amira ate slowly, cautiously, years of caution evident in every movement, but as she tasted the fish, the vegetables, the simple but perfectly balanced flavors, her expression transformed. This is wonderful, she whispered. It's absolutely wonderful. Maya felt tears prick her own eyes. Thank you, she said. That means everything. She turned to leave, to let them enjoy their meal in peace, but the Sheikh's voice stopped her. Miss Maya, please, stay for just a moment. Maya turned back, unsure what to expect. The Sheikh gestured to the empty chair at their table. Would you sit with us, just for a minute? We'd like to talk with you. Maya glanced around nervously. Servers didn't sit with guests at Elysian Heights. It was one of many unwritten rules, but something in Amira's tear-stained face made her nod. She pulled out the chair and sat, feeling the weight of curious glances from nearby tables. What you did tonight, the Sheikh began, his voice thick with emotion. You have no idea what it means to us. Amira reached across the table and took Maya's hand. Her fingers were delicate, but her grip was firm. My husband is right. You need to understand why this matters so much. Maya stayed quiet, listening. I've had severe allergies my entire life, Amira continued. Growing up in Dubai, my parents were so careful, so protective. But as I got older, as I wanted to live a normal life, I realized how much the world isn't built for people like me. Every restaurant meal is a negotiation, a risk. Most chefs are kind, but some, she paused, her expression pained, some make you feel like you're asking for the moon, like your needs are an insult to them. The Sheikh squeezed his wife's other hand. 3 years ago, we were in Paris, celebrating our anniversary at a famous restaurant. Amira explained her allergies carefully. The chef assured us everything would be fine. His jaw tightened. There was walnut oil in the sauce, just a little bit. They'd forgotten, or they didn't think it mattered, or they didn't care. Amira went into anaphylactic shock at the table. Maya's breath caught. Oh my God. I almost died, Amira said quietly. Right there in that beautiful restaurant, surrounded by art and music and people in expensive clothes. The EpiPen saved my life, but the hospital stay was 3 days. And the worst part wasn't the physical pain. It was the shame, the feeling that I'd somehow caused a scene, disrupted other people's evenings, been inconvenient. Tears were flowing freely down her face now. Since then, I've been terrified to eat anywhere unfamiliar. We travel for my husband's business and every meal is anxiety. When your chef refused tonight, I felt that shame all over again. Like I was too much trouble, like I didn't deserve to be here. Maya felt her own tears welling up. You deserve to be anywhere you want to be. Your needs aren't inconvenient, they're important, they're about keeping you alive. But you understood that, the sheikh said, without us having to beg, without making us feel small. You risked something to help us, didn't you? I can see it in your face. This wasn't sanctioned by your chef. Maya hesitated, then nodded. No, it wasn't. I used a different kitchen downstairs, made sure everything was completely safe. But Chef Thornton doesn't know yet. You could lose your job, Amira whispered, because of us. Not because of you, Maya corrected gently, because I made a choice, because I have a 5-year-old son named Diego, and I want him to grow up knowing that doing the right thing matters more than playing it safe. My grandmother taught me that. She raised me after my parents died, and she showed me every day that kindness isn't optional, it's essential. The sheikh leaned back in his chair, studying Maya with an intensity that made her self-conscious. Tell me about your grandmother. So Maya did. She told them about Rosa Torres, about the small restaurant in Little Havana, about the homeless man and the hundreds of other moments where her grandmother chose compassion over convenience. She told them about learning to cook, about culinary school and having to drop out, about her failed marriage and the struggle to raise Diego alone while working 2 jobs. I'm nobody special, Maya finished. Just someone trying to get by and do right by my kid. But tonight, when I saw you leaving, when I saw how hurt you were, I just couldn't let it happen. My abuela would have been so disappointed in me if I had. Amira was crying openly now, and even the sheikh's eyes were glistening. Maya, he said, his voice rough with emotion, you are wrong about one thing. You are absolutely someone special. Before Maya could respond, a commotion erupted near the kitchen. Raised voices cut through the refined atmosphere. Maya's stomach dropped as she recognized one of them. Chef Marcus Thornton had just stormed out of the kitchen, and his face was the color of a boiled lobster. Behind him, Robert Chen followed, looking simultaneously apologetic and defiant. Where is she? Thornton's voice carried across the dining room, and conversation stopped mid-sentence. Diners turned to stare. Where is the waitress who thinks she can commandeer my restaurant's kitchen? Maya stood up slowly, her legs feeling like water. This was it. The moment she'd known would come. I'm right here, Chef. Thornton's eyes locked onto her, and the fury in them was scorching. He strode toward table 14, and Maya could see other servers shrinking back, could feel the entire restaurant holding its breath. You, Thornton snarled, stopping directly in front of Maya, cooked in my restaurant without permission, used my ingredients, served food to my guests under my establishment's name? Yes, Maya said, her voice steadier than she felt. I did. You're fired, Thornton spat. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. You'll never work in a respectable restaurant again. I'll make sure of it personally. The dining room was dead silent. Even the violinist had stopped playing. Maya opened her mouth to respond, but Sheikh al-Rashid stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. He was tall, imposing, and when he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Excuse me, he said, his tone ice-cold, but I think you need to reconsider. Chef Thornton turned to face the sheikh, his expression a mixture of surprise and barely contained rage. This doesn't concern you, sir. This is a matter between— It concerns me greatly, Sheikh al-Rashid interrupted, his voice cutting through Thornton's words like a blade. Because this young woman saved my wife's life tonight. The room seemed to lean in, every ear straining to hear what would happen next. With all due respect, Thornton said through gritted teeth, clearly struggling to maintain professional composure in front of a wealthy patron, she violated protocol. She used restaurant equipment without authorization. She served food that wasn't prepared under my supervision. These are serious breaches. Serious breaches? The Sheikh's voice rose slightly, and there was steel beneath the polite veneer. Do you know what's serious, chef? My wife nearly dying 3 years ago because a chef like you was too proud to take her allergies seriously. Do you know what's serious? Being refused service tonight because you couldn't be bothered to show basic human decency. Amira stood as well, her hand on her husband's arm, but her eyes locked on Thornton. I explained to your waitress that I have severe, life-threatening allergies. All we asked was for you to prepare food safely, and you refused. You told her we should leave. Colour drained from Thornton's face. That's not... I didn't say it exactly like... You told Maya that I should eat at restaurants that cater to people with problems, Amira continued, her voice shaking but firm. You said this wasn't a special needs kitchen. You made me feel like my existence was an inconvenience to your art. A murmur rippled through the watching diners. Several people were recording on their phones now, and Maya's heart sank. This was about to become very public, very quickly. Thornton's jaw worked, and Maya could see him realizing the situation was spiraling out of his control. I apologize if my words came across as insensitive, but you have to understand, this is a 3 Michelin-star establishment. We have standards. Standards? Sheikh Al-Rashid's laugh was bitter. Your standards apparently don't include compassion. They don't include basic human kindness. This waitress, who you just fired, has more understanding of true hospitality in her little finger than you have in your entire body. Robert Chen stepped forward, his usually calm demeanor cracking. Chef Thornton, perhaps we should discuss this in private. No, the Sheikh said firmly. This should be public. Everyone should hear this. He looked around the dining room, making eye contact with the watching diners. My name is Rahman Al-Rashid. I own Al-Rashid Properties. We have hotels in 15 countries, including 3 luxury properties here in Miami. I employ over 10,000 people worldwide. Maya saw recognition dawn on several faces. The Al-Rashid name was famous in hospitality circles. And in all my properties, the Sheikh continued, we have one rule that supersedes everything else. Treat every guest with dignity and respect. Accommodate their needs. Make them feel valued. Because hospitality isn't about showing off your skills or your artistry. It's about making people feel cared for. He turned back to Thornton. Maya understood that tonight. She risked her job because she cared more about my wife's well-being than about your ego. She used a separate kitchen, verified every ingredient, took every precaution, and she created a beautiful meal that my wife could eat safely for the first time in weeks. Thornton's face was flushed now, a mix of anger and humiliation. That's admirable, but it doesn't change the fact that she violated restaurant policy. Fire her, then, the Sheikh said coldly. Go ahead. Oh, but know this. I will make sure every person in the hospitality industry knows what happened here tonight. I will tell them that Elysian Heights values a chef's pride over guests' safety. I will share that you refused to accommodate severe allergies and then punished an employee who showed the compassion you lacked. Furthermore, he continued, pulling out his phone, I'm already texting the owner of this building, Thomas Paramount. Tom and I are old friends. We've done business together for 20 years. I'm quite certain he'll be interested to hear about tonight's events, especially since Al-Rashid Properties was considering investing in his new development project downtown. Maya watched Thornton's face go white. Thomas Paramount owned half of downtown Miami. If the Sheikh pulled his investment, the consequences would extend far beyond this restaurant. Amira moved closer to Maya, putting a protective arm around her shoulders. This woman showed us more kindness in 1 hour than we've experienced in months of travel. She saw us as people, not as problems. And you want to punish her for that? The violinist perhaps sensing the moment needed emphasis, began playing again, something soft and melancholy that seemed to underscore the tension. One of the diners, an older woman in pearls, stood up at her table. "I've been coming to this restaurant for 5 years," she said loudly. "I've always believed it was about excellence, but if excellence means cruelty, if it means refusing to help someone who could die, then I want no part of it." She picked up her purse. "I'm leaving, and I won't be back." Another diner stood, then another. Within moments, half the dining room was on their feet, some gathering their belongings, others simply standing in solidarity. Thornton looked around wildly, realizing he was losing control not just of this confrontation, but potentially of his entire restaurant. "Wait, please, everyone sit down. This is a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding," said an elderly man near the window, "is that we thought this place valued its guests. Clearly, it only values itself." Robert Chen looked torn between horror and vindication. The other servers were frozen, unsure whether to try to stop the exodus or let it happen. Maya stood in the center of it all, feeling surreal. This had escalated far beyond anything she'd imagined. All she'd wanted was to feed 2 people who'd been turned away. Now she was watching the entire restaurant implode around Chef Thornton's pride. The elevator at the far end of the dining room chimed, and a woman in an elegant black suit stepped out, her silver hair styled in an immaculate bob. Maya recognized her immediately. Patricia Fontaine, the owner of Elysian Heights. She rarely appeared during service hours, preferring to let her staff run operations. But someone had clearly called her, and her expression as she surveyed the chaos was thunderous. "What," she said, her voice cutting through the commotion like a scalpel, "is happening in my restaurant?" The room fell silent. Even those who'd been preparing to leave paused, recognizing the ultimate authority had arrived. Patricia's heels clicked sharply against the marble floor as she walked toward the center of the conflict. Her eyes swept across the scene. The standing diners, the frozen staff, Chef Thornton looking simultaneously defiant and terrified, and Maya standing there with Amira's protective arm around her shoulders. "Robert," Patricia addressed the maitre d', "would you care to explain?" Robert Chen stepped forward, and to his credit, his voice was steady. "Mrs. Fontaine, a guest requested an accommodation for severe allergies. Chef Thornton refused to modify any dishes or ensure safe preparation. Maya, one of our servers, used the downstairs catering kitchen to prepare a safe meal for the guests. Chef Thornton discovered this and fired her publicly. The guests are Sheikh Rahman al-Rashid and his wife, Amira." Patricia's eyebrows rose slightly at the name. She turned to the Sheikh and Amira, offering a small bow of her head. "Sheikh al-Rashid, Mrs. al-Rashid, I am deeply sorry for whatever has occurred. Would you be willing to speak with me about this situation?" "Mrs. Fontaine," the Sheikh said, his tone still cool but more measured, "your waitress Maya is the only reason we're still here. She showed extraordinary kindness and courage when your head chef showed neither." Patricia's attention shifted to Maya. "You cooked for these guests?" Maya's mouth was dry, but she forced herself to speak. "Yes, ma'am. In the catering kitchen. I made sure everything was completely safe for Mrs. al-Rashid's severe allergies. I know I violated protocol, but you put guests' welfare above rules," Patricia finished. She was quiet for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she turned to Thornton. "Marcus, my office. Now." "Patricia, let me explain," Thornton began, but she held up one hand. "Not here, not in front of everyone. Office, we'll discuss this privately." Her voice left no room for argument. As Thornton followed her toward the back of the restaurant, Patricia paused and looked back at Maya. "You stay here. I'll speak with you shortly." Then, louder, addressing the entire dining room, "Ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely apologize for this disruption. Your meals tonight are complimentary. and I hope you'll give us the opportunity to restore your faith in Elysian heights." She disappeared into the back with Thornton, leaving a stunned silence behind them. Gradually, the tension began to dissolve. Some diners who'd been standing sat back down, though several others still left, shaking their heads. The remaining guests began talking in hushed, excited tones about what they'd just witnessed. Maya felt her legs finally give out, and she sank into the chair at table 14. Her hands were shaking. Amira sat beside her, still holding her hand. "Are you all right?" "I don't know," Maya whispered. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I just wanted to help you." "And you did," the sheikh said firmly. "More than you know. But Maya, you should understand something. What happens next will depend on what Patricia Fontaine decides, and I intend to make sure she makes the right decision." He pulled out his phone and made a call, walking a few steps away for privacy. Maya could hear fragments. "Yes, Tom. I'm here now. The situation is exactly as I described. Your tenant's head chef. Unacceptable behavior." Robert appeared with a glass of water for Maya. "Drink this," he said gently. "You look pale." Maya took the glass gratefully, her hands still trembling. "Robert, I'm so sorry I put you in this position." "Don't apologize," he said quietly. "You did what was right. What I should have had the courage to do." He glanced toward where Patricia and Thornton had disappeared. "Between you and me, Thornton's been getting worse for months. More arrogant, more dismissive of guests. The staff has been complaining, but he brings in the Michelin-stars, so Patricia tolerated it. Maybe tonight was the push she needed. Or maybe I just lost my job and destroyed the restaurant's reputation," Maya said miserably. Amira squeezed her hand. "You saved more than you destroyed. Trust me." 20 minutes passed. 20 agonizing minutes during which the restaurant gradually returned to something resembling normal operations. Servers delivered complimentary desserts to apologetic diners. The violinist played soothing melodies, but everyone was still whispering, still glancing toward the back where Patricia was meeting with Thornton. Finally, Patricia emerged alone. Her expression was composed, but grim. She walked directly to table 14. "Sheikh Al-Rashid, Mrs. Al-Rashid, I would like to offer my sincere apologies for tonight's events. This is not the standard of service we strive for at Elysian Heights. Chef Thornton has been suspended pending a full investigation of his conduct." Suspended, not fired. Maya felt a confusing mix of relief and disappointment. Patricia turned to Maya. "As for you, Miss Torres, your actions tonight were highly irregular. You violated several protocols." Maya's heart sank. Here it came, the official termination. "However," Patricia continued, and Maya looked up in surprise, "you also demonstrated the core principle that should drive every hospitality establishment, putting guests' needs first. Your concern for Mrs. Al-Rashid's safety and dignity reflects the values I want in my staff." "You're not firing me," Maya's voice came out as a whisper. "No," Patricia said. "I'm not. In fact, I'd like to speak with you tomorrow about a different position. But for tonight, why don't you take the rest of your shift off? You've earned it." Maya sat in stunned silence as Patricia excused herself to attend to the other diners, offering personal apologies to those who remained. The restaurant slowly settled back into its rhythm, though the atmosphere had fundamentally changed. There was a buzz in the air, a sense that everyone had witnessed something significant. "Come," Amira said gently, helping Maya to her feet. "Let's step outside for some air. You look like you need it." The three of them walked to the restaurant's outdoor terrace, which overlooked Biscayne Bay. The night air was warm and humid, typical Miami weather, but the breeze off the water felt refreshing after the intensity of what had just happened inside. Maya leaned against the railing, staring out at the lights reflecting on the dark water. Boats bobbed gently at their moorings. The city glittered around them like scattered diamonds. It felt surreal that less than an hour ago she'd been sneaking into the catering kitchen, terrified of losing her job. "I can't believe what just happened," she finally said. "I can't believe you stood up for me like that. You didn't have to do that." "Yes, we did," the sheikh said firmly. "Maya, do you understand what you did tonight? You saw two strangers in distress, and without hesitation, without concern for your own welfare, you helped us. That kind of character is rare." Amira moved beside Maya, looking out at the water. "When I was lying in that hospital bed 3 years ago, I made a decision. I promised myself that if I survived, I would never let fear control my life, and I promised that whenever I encountered genuine kindness, I would honor it and protect it." She turned to Maya. "You showed me genuine kindness tonight. The least I could do was protect you in return." The sheikh pulled out his wallet and extracted a business card. "Maya, I want you to have this. It has my personal number, my assistant's contact information, and my company's details." Maya took the card hesitantly. It was elegant, embossed lettering on thick cardstock. "I don't understand. Why would I need—" "Because I want to offer you a position," the sheikh said. "Al Rashid Properties is opening a new boutique hotel here in Miami next year. We need someone to oversee the culinary program, someone who understands that hospitality is about people, not just prestige." Maya's eyes widened. "But I didn't even finish culinary school. I'm just a waitress who—" "You're someone who cares," Amira interrupted. "You're someone with talent and compassion. Those can't be taught. The rest, the formal training, the credentials, those can be arranged. We have resources. What we need is the right person, someone with the right heart." "Think about it," the sheikh added. "No pressure. But the position would come with a substantial salary, benefits, housing assistance if needed. We take care of our people, Maya, and after tonight, I believe you're exactly the kind of person we want on our team." Maya felt tears welling up again. This was too much. It was like the universe had taken her moment of courage and magnified it beyond all recognition. "I have a son," she said, her voice breaking. "Diego, he's 5. I'd need to consider what's best for him." "Of course," Amira said warmly. "Family comes first. Always. Take time to think about it. Discuss it with your son, with anyone whose opinion matters to you. The offer stands whenever you're ready." They talked for another 20 minutes on the terrace. The sheikh shared stories about his hotels, about his vision for the new property. Amira asked about Diego, about Maya's grandmother, about her dreams for the future. It felt less like a job interview and more like a conversation between friends. Eventually, Robert appeared at the terrace doors. "Maya, you have a phone call. Your babysitter says it's urgent." Maya's heart jumped into her throat. "Diego!" She rushed inside and grabbed the phone at the host stand. "Maya?" It was Clara, the elderly neighbor who watched Diego on her evening shifts. "Everything's fine. Don't panic. But Diego woke up asking for you. He had a nightmare and he won't settle down. I'm so sorry to bother you at work." "It's okay, Clara. Tell him I'm coming home right now. Tell him Mummy loves him." She hung up and turned to find the Al-Rashids had followed her inside. "I have to go," she explained. "My son needs me." "Of course," Amira said. "Go. Be with your child." The sheikh stepped forward and pressed something into Maya's hand. When she looked down, she saw it was a folded check. "For tonight," he said quietly, "for your courage and your kindness. Please accept it." Maya wanted to refuse, wanted to say it wasn't necessary, but when she unfolded the check and saw the amount, her breath caught. $20,000, more money than she'd make in 6 months of work. "I can't," she began. "You can," the sheikh said firmly. "You risked everything for us tonight. This is a small token of our gratitude. Use it for your son, for your education, for whatever you need. You've earned it 100 times over." Maya's hands shook as she held the check. This money could change everything. Diego's childcare, her student loans, the ability to go back to school, a cushion against the constant fear of one emergency destroying everything she'd built. "Thank you," she whispered. Thank you so much." She hugged them both, these strangers who'd become something more in the course of one extraordinary evening. Then she grabbed her purse, said quick goodbyes to Robert and the other staff, and rushed to catch the elevator down. As the doors closed, Maya caught one last glimpse of the Al-Rashids, standing together, Amira's head on her husband's shoulder, both of them smiling. And Maya smiled too, tears streaming down her face, clutching the check and the business card like lifelines to a future she'd never dared imagine. Maya's hands trembled as she drove her aging Honda Civic through the Miami streets, heading back to Little Havana. The check sat in her purse on the passenger seat, and she kept glancing at it as if it might disappear, as if this whole evening might turn out to be some elaborate dream. The drive from downtown to her neighborhood took 20 minutes, and Maya used the time to try to process everything that had happened. She'd gone to work expecting an ordinary Tuesday shift. Tips, maybe a few $100s if she was lucky. Instead, she'd defied her head chef, cooked a meal that saved the evening for 2 strangers, been defended by a billionaire, and walked away with a job offer and more money than she'd ever held at once. Her phone buzzed with notifications, and at a red light, she glanced at the screen. Text messages from co-workers, Facebook friend requests, Instagram mentions. Apparently videos from the restaurant were already circulating online. "Waitress stands up to chef to help couple with allergies," read one caption. "Real hospitality versus ego," said another. Maya's stomach churned. Going viral wasn't something she'd wanted. She was a private person, someone who kept her head down and worked hard. But as she read through the comments on the videos, she saw overwhelming support. "This woman is a hero," someone wrote. "More people like her in the industry, please," said another. She risked everything to do the right thing. She pulled up in front of her small apartment building, a modest 2-story structure painted a faded yellow. Home. Not fancy, not spacious, but theirs. She hurried up the exterior stairs to the 2nd floor and unlocked the door. Clara was sitting on the worn couch, her knitting on her lap, watching a telenovela with the volume low. "He finally fell back asleep about 10 minutes ago," she whispered. "Poor little thing was so upset. Kept saying something about monsters. Thank you, Clara. I'm so sorry for cutting out early." The older woman waved her hand dismissively. "Family comes first, Mija. Always. How was work?" Maya almost laughed. How was work? How could she possibly summarize what had happened? "Eventful," she finally said. "Very eventful. I'll tell you about it later." After Clara left, Maya walked quietly to Diego's small bedroom. He was curled up in his race car bed, his favorite stuffed dinosaur clutched to his chest. His dark hair was messy from sleep, his long eyelashes resting against his cheeks. He looked so peaceful now, so innocent. Maya sat on the edge of his bed and gently brushed the hair from his forehead. "Mommy's home, baby," she whispered. Diego's eyes fluttered open. "Mommy?" His voice was small and sleepy. "I'm here, mi amor. I'm right here." He wrapped his arms around her neck, and Maya held him close, breathing in the scent of his strawberry shampoo. "I had a bad dream," he mumbled against her shoulder. "I know, sweetie, but it's over now. You're safe. Are you safe too, Mommy?" The question caught Maya off guard. Diego had asked variations of this before, usually when she came home late from work looking exhausted. He was perceptive, her son. He understood more than most 5-year-olds about struggle, about his mother working multiple jobs, about their precarious situation. "Yes, baby, I'm safe. In fact, something really good happened at work tonight. Something that might change things for us. Diego pulled back to look at her with his big brown eyes. Good different or bad different? Very good different, Maya assured him, but we'll talk about it in the morning. Right now, you need to sleep. She tucked him back in, kissed his forehead, and sat beside his bed until his breathing deepened and evened out. Then she returned to the living room and collapsed on the couch. Her phone continued buzzing with notifications. She ignored most of them, but one message caught her eye. It was from Patricia Fontaine, sent just 15 minutes ago. Maya, I know tonight was overwhelming. Before we meet tomorrow, I wanted you to know that Chef Thornton has been terminated, effective immediately. His behavior was unacceptable and doesn't reflect the values of Elysian Heights. I'd like to discuss the position I mentioned, Director of Guest Services. It would be a significant change from waitressing, with appropriate compensation. We can discuss details at 10 a.m. tomorrow if you're available. Regardless of your decision, thank you for reminding us what hospitality truly means. Patricia Fontaine, Director of Guest Services, at Elysian Heights. Maya's mind reeled. That was a management position, something she'd never dreamed of achieving without a college degree, without more experience. And now she had two job offers: Patricia's position at Elysian Heights, or the Sheikh's offer to oversee the culinary program at his new hotel. Maya pulled out the Sheikh's business card and Patricia's text message, laying them side by side on her coffee table. Two different paths, two different futures. Both of them more than she'd dared hope for when she'd woken up this morning. She thought about Abuela Rosa, wished desperately that she could call her grandmother and ask for advice. But Rosa had passed away 2 years ago, her heart finally giving out after decades of hard work. Maya had her grandmother's recipes, her wisdom, her values, but she didn't have her voice anymore. "What would you tell me to do, Abuela?" Maya whispered to the empty room. And somehow she knew the answer. Rosa would tell her to sleep on it, to hold Diego close, to remember that the best decisions come not from desperation or fear, but from a place of calm and certainty. Maya set her phone aside and picked up a framed photo from the side table. It showed her, Diego, and Abuela Rosa at Diego's 3rd birthday party, all three of them laughing at something off camera. Rosa's eyes were bright with joy, her weathered hands holding Maya's shoulder. "I did what you taught me tonight, Abuela," Maya said softly. "I hope I made you proud." The morning sun streamed through the windows of the training kitchen at the Al Rashid Grand Hotel Miami. Maya stood at the front of the room, watching 15 culinary students practice knife techniques. The hotel wouldn't open for another 3 months, but the training program was already in full swing. "Remember," Maya called out, walking between the stations, "precision matters, but so does purpose. Every dish you create will be served to a person with their own story, their own needs, their own dignity. Never forget that." The decision to accept Sheikh al-Rashid's offer hadn't been easy. Patricia Fontaine's position at Elysian Heights had been tempting, a chance to stay in familiar territory with a guaranteed salary and benefits. But after sleeping on it and talking it through with Diego, Maya had realized something important. This wasn't just about choosing a job. It was about choosing who she wanted to become. The Sheikh's offer meant taking a risk, stepping into a role she wasn't entirely qualified for on paper. But it also meant building something new, creating a hospitality program founded on the principles Abuela Rosa had taught her. It meant training the next generation of chefs and servers to lead with compassion, not ego. So Maya had called the Sheikh, accepted his offer, and enrolled in an accelerated hospitality management program that the hotel was paying for. She'd used part of the $20,000 to hire a lawyer who helped her negotiate a contract that included housing, childcare assistance, and educational benefits. The rest went into savings for Diego's future. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind. Maya had worked with architects and designers on the kitchen layouts, ensuring accommodations for various dietary needs were built into the very structure of the space. She'd hired staff who shared her values, including Robert Chen, who'd left Elysian Heights to become the hotel's director of guest relations. She'd also created an allergy safety certification program that was already being adopted by other hotels in the Al Rashid chain. Amira had worked closely with her on it, sharing her experiences and helping develop protocols that balanced safety with exceptional dining experiences. The viral videos from that night at Elysian Heights had died down after a few weeks, but the impact lingered. Maya received messages regularly from servers and hospitality workers sharing their own stories of standing up for guests, of choosing compassion over convenience. She'd become, somewhat reluctantly, a spokesperson for dignity and service work. As for Elysian Heights, the restaurant had survived, though changed. Patricia Fontaine had hired a new head chef, someone known for both culinary excellence and kindness. She'd also implemented new policies around dietary accommodations and staff empowerment. Patricia and Maya had stayed in touch, occasionally meeting for coffee to discuss the industry they were both working to improve. Chef Thornton had largely disappeared from the Miami culinary scene. Maya had heard he'd moved to Los Angeles. Though she tried not to focus on what had happened to him, she preferred to focus on what she was building, not on what had been torn down. "Miss Torres," one of the students raised her hand. "Can you tell us again about the night that changed everything?" Maya smiled. She told this story dozens of times now to students, to journalists, to other hospitality professionals, but it never got old, because the lesson never stopped being relevant. "I was a waitress who saw two people in need," she began. "I had a choice, follow the rules and let them leave disappointed, or break the rules and do what was right. I chose right over safe, and yes, it was terrifying. Yes, I could have lost everything, but I would have lost more if I'd stayed silent." She looked around at the young faces watching her, seeing in them the next generation of hospitality workers. "That's what I want you to remember. Your job isn't just about food or service or following protocols. It's about seeing the humanity in every person who walks through your doors. It's about making them feel valued, safe, and cared for. Because at the end of the day, that's what hospitality means." After class, Maya walked to her office, where a framed photo sat on her desk. It showed her, Diego, and the Al-Rashids at Diego's 6th birthday party, which they'd attended despite their busy schedules. Amira and Diego were laughing at something, and the sheikh had his arm around Maya's shoulders like family. Her phone chimed with a text from Diego's school. "Diego got star student this week. So proud of him." Maya smiled, feeling that familiar warmth in her chest. Her son was thriving in their new apartment, with better schools and stability they'd never had before. He'd asked her recently what it meant to be brave, and she'd told him the truth. Being brave means doing the right thing even when it's scary. "Even when you might lose something important?" he'd asked. "Especially then," she'd answered. That Tuesday evening 6 months ago, Maya had walked into Elysian Heights as a struggling single mother trying to survive. She'd walked out as someone who'd discovered that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was acting despite it. That standing up for others, even at personal cost, was always worth it. And so ends the story of how one waitress's moment of compassion became a movement. How refusing to accept cruelty as the cost of excellence changed not just her life, but the lives of countless others in the hospitality industry. Maya Torres didn't set out to be a hero that night. She just set out to feed two people who needed help. But sometimes that's exactly what heroism looks like. One person, one moment, one choice to do what's right. Thank you for reading this story. If it moved you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that their voice matters, that their compassion has power, and that doing the right thing, even when it's hard, is always worth it. Remember, you don't need wealth or status to make a difference. You just need courage and heart, and sometimes that single sentence you speak, that one action you take, can change the world around you.